Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at Connect 2026, and thank you for joining us for our session. Today, we're going to be talking to you about measurement, attribution, and incrementality, and how, if you harness these powers correctly, you can unleash AI optimization power within Optimove. My name is David Hardy, the VP of Professional Services at Optimove.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alice Andreo, Customer Success Team Lead.
Thank you. So, let's start with a story. Unfortunately, I don't have any cute pics of my family. I've just got this motley crew. And trust me, in a minute, I'll give you a tenuous link to each one of these. But let's start with John Maynard Keynes. So, as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed undergraduate, I studied economics at university. And my dissertation thesis was on the education rates in Sub-Saharan Africa and why they were different to the rest of the world. Now, I had my preconceptions of why that might be, whether it was the GDP per capita, whether it was foreign direct investment, whether it was foreign aid. Multiple different factors would affect the education rates in that region and why they were different to those elsewhere. So what I had to do was build a measurement framework, and I built a multiple regression model that allowed me to test the incremental impact of each of those factors on that one single outcome. Now, as much as I would have liked to, I didn't solve the challenge of education rates being lower in Sub-Saharan Africa than elsewhere, but I was able to build a logical narrative using a measurement framework that allowed me to talk about this in what I believe was quite an educated way. And this was my first introduction to how measurement can help you explain phenomenon in the world. Okay? That image was quite simple to explain. This one, relatively simple. I left university 2008, 2009 into a massive financial crisis, but I needed to pay my rent and I had to follow the money. And all of that money was going into these guys' pockets. Sergey Brin and Mark Zuckerberg. Interestingly, what I like about this photo is Sergey Brin wearing his Google Lens, definitely dated. This was definitely around 2010. And Mark Zuckerberg, 15 years later, copies him, and he's getting into some trouble right now. But my job was to manage the paid search spend for many different brands, but one of them was We Buy Any Car. And apologies in advance, that jingle is probably in your heads right now, if any of you are British. But We Buy Any Car was spending millions of pounds a month on TV advertising to make sure that jingle did stay in your head. They were also spending millions of pounds a month on paid search ads across Facebook, across Google, across Bing. The CEO of that company hated this. He believed he was building a brand using TV as a tool, and he didn't want to spend millions of pounds a month mopping up that demand on Google Ads. So we ran some simple tests. We slowed down that Google Ads spend, we slowed down that Facebook spend, and ultimately, business performance dropped. Now, at this time, I didn't build a measurement framework. We built simple tests. We stopped some Facebook spend, we stopped some Google spend, and ultimately, business performance dropped. So I started to understand that the incremental value of those Google ads and those Facebook ads was valuable. I didn't know exactly how much. Interestingly, in my next job, I went and built attribution models for them to show them exactly how much. But I wanted to get a picture of Hannibal Lecter in here. I don't really know why, but I did. And the CEO of We Buy Any Car at the time used to always tell us that your paid search spend is cannibalizing my TV spend. There we go. So why are we here today? It's not an existential question. It's why are we in this room today? Why are you all here? There's not one single reason. Maybe it was the many LinkedIn posts we put about the event. Maybe it was the email reminders that landed in your inbox. Or maybe it was your friendly CSM reminding you to come to such a valuable event. But I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we're here. But the real truth of the matter is there isn't one single reason why any of you are here. There isn't one single reason why I'm here. There's multiple reasons why we ended up in this room together. Understanding the incremental impact of each of the touch points that led us here is the study of measurement, attribution, and incrementality. So how does Optimove approach this problem? Optimove approaches this problem like a scientist would. We build a baseline, a control group, and we measure the impact against that baseline. And in science, if you want to know whether something works, you run experiments. And that's exactly what we do in Optimove. So, before we move on, hopefully what you've understood so far is measurement is a discipline that holds attribution and incrementality together. Attribution can tell you what's driving results. Incrementality can tell you the exact value. So let's move on to how Optimove actually approaches the measurement problem around incrementality and attribution. So I'm going to talk to you about incremental uplift in 4 simple steps. Imagine this scenario. You're deploying a newsletter campaign to your active audience, but you want to know, is it driving incremental value, and what that incremental value might be, and how you can improve it. So, step 1, we build a holdout or a control group. This is a representative sample of your target audience, your active audience, but a smaller proportion of those. Then we measure the baseline performance of that control group. That control group isn't exposed to that newsletter. We now know how that audience performs if they didn't receive that newsletter. We can then build a simulation of that. So the control group is 10, 20% of your total audience. We can simulate what it was if your total audience didn't receive that. And this audience would have generated $750 for your brand, regardless of whether it received the newsletter or not. That's our control simulation. To calculate the uplift, though, we have to compare that to what actually happened when you ran that experiment. And in that experiment, you generated $1,250. So the gap between the two, that $500, that's your incremental uplift. And that's how Optimove approaches the measurement problem around incrementality and attribution. But to make sure that this is working correctly, that control group has to mirror the complexity of your total audience. And that's exactly what Optimove do. We utilize stratified random sampling. That's quite a complex term, but it's used in political exit polls. It's used in clinical trials, and it works. And this is what it looks like. If your full audience consists of high-value customers, low-value customers, dormant, or maybe new customers, the control group mirrors that complexity in a proportional way. That's how we can make sure that that uplift measurement is truly accurate. So now we understand how Optimove approaches the measurement question and the foundations of that. Let's look at how we can apply that to your business. Over the next 10 or so minutes, Alice is going to walk you through an incrementality maturity model for your business, starting at the tactical level, where you can answer the question, does this campaign work? We then move on to a more coordinated approach. We know that you don't send campaigns in isolation, you send journeys. Does this journey drive incremental value, is the question you'll be able to answer. And then finally, the most strategic level, is our marketing engine creating true value for our business? Over to you, Alice.
Thank you. So let's see this maturity model in action. We're going to start with the very basic, and then we're going to move to the most advanced level of maturity. One thing that I advise every single one of my clients, and a lot of them are here today, you can keep me honest, is add a control group to every single campaign that you send. But it's actually incorrect. If you have sent a campaign in Optimove, if you went to the campaign builder, you would see that the control group is actually a default setting that is automatically enabled in your campaign builder. So my advice should be leave the controls on, not add it. If you have a marketing plan that doesn't have a lot of control that is attached to them, it's actually an active decision that you or your team are making not to test this campaign. The steps that you should be taking are the ones that you can see on those 2 screens. The first one is to define your audience, your target group. The second one is for Optimove. We split it. We reserve a statistically valid control group. Then we run the campaign, and then as a 4th step, Optimove will be measuring its performance. It's going to have a look at using that calculation that David walked you through, the uplift, the incremental value that you're generating with this campaign. There's no extra work that is needed on your end. But in order to unlock the most accurate analysis possible, there's some things that you need to do, and it's to respect the default settings that you have in Optimove. I was just talking about the control group. You should have a control group always on. And the reason why is that with Optimove, we have a look at every campaign as a measurement experiment. If you are sending something, if you're sending a campaign, if a customer is being exposed to your brand, there is a potential impact that you're making on your customer behavior. And if there is a potential impact, you would want to know what happened. You want to know about this potential impact. You want to quantify it, you want to measure it, and you want, if it works, to replicate it over time. Now, a pushback that I get from my clients is, what if there is a campaign that is not a test? What if I'm sending a weekly newsletter? I don't want to test it. I just want to engage with my customer base. I don't need a control group. Well, the answer that I have for this is you will never know what is the impact of that newsletter. You will never be able to have data to make it better over time. Now, what if this weekly newsletter is actually a bigger revenue driver than any of your other campaigns? What if it's working a lot better to convert your customers than this really cool, fancy offer that your team has spent valuable time building? You put your budget into building some assets, and you're spending all of that in your offer campaign. The problem here is you wouldn't have the data to suggest you to move all of this effort and this budget into your weekly newsletter because you don't have the data that will tell you that that's the right move. Now, the second thing that you should have a look at doing is to thrive for clean orchestration. That means that your customers would be receiving one communication at a time in a clean manner. You have a defined, accurate objective that you're putting in front of them. The reason why you want to be doing this is, one, because you want to make sure that you have the symmetry of your message. You want to make sure that customers are being exposed to one clean objective. They want to be communicated in a clean manner. The second one is that if those customers are actually taking an action, you want to be able to understand what is the campaign that has triggered this action. And this is something that you can achieve with another default setting that we have in Optimove, which is exclusion rules. It allows marketers to prioritize their marketing plan, ensuring that only one campaign is received at a time. You can do it in a manual way, so you can prioritize. Your CRM team would be going into the priorities and understand which one is the campaign that should be prioritized over time. Or you can leave Optimove to automate this decision for you, but I will get into this in a second. Once you have those two clean settings, the control groups always on for all of your campaigns, your exclusion rules always respected, you're achieving a clean by default marketing plan measurement. You understand what is happening with your campaigns. Now, what do you do once you have those results? There are three things that you can do. The first one is to scale your campaigns. The second one is to fix your campaigns. And the last one is to kill them. And it all depends on the result that you're getting. The first one is what happens when you have a positive uplift. It's quite intuitive. Your strategy is working. Your campaign is performing. You probably want to have a look at scaling this. You want to replicate it with other campaigns. Maybe you want to broaden the audience. Maybe you want to have a look at increasing its frequency. The second one is a negative impact, which is actually still a good thing in the sense that you're still learning something. And what you're learning is that something is wrong. It's not working. Your campaign is not having the impact that you wish for it to have. Your control group is outperforming your test group. In here, you should have a look at using the analysis tools that you have in Optimove to understand what is at play and fix this. You could change the offer. You can have a look at the creative that you're sending. Maybe the target group is incorrect for that particular objective. But in any case, you need to do something about it. The third one is what happens when you don't have uplift at all. In this case, it's neither positive or negative, but it's just useless. It's not moving the needle. You probably should have a look at killing this campaign and reallocate the budget or the time that your team is spending on this campaign to other marketing actions. Now, this is quite manual, right? You have your teams that need to have a look at the analysis, reviewing what's happening, and then make decisions off of that. That doesn't leave a lot of time to be positionless. In level 3, we'll talk about AI decisioning and how Optimove can automate all of these decisions so that you don't have to spend a lot of time with those manual reviews. But we'll talk about this in a little bit. For now, let's just move to level 2. So we talked about what happens when you have a single campaign, how to configure them, what decisions that you can make off the back of results. But in the real world, it doesn't really happen in that way. It's a little bit more complex. What happens, for instance, if customers are receiving many campaigns before they're taking an action? How do you measure now? So there are two ways that this can happen in Optimove. The first one is what I would call controlled decisioning. That's our streams. So it's a carefully crafted sequence of campaigns with a very clear objective. Say, for example, a welcome journey, you want to onboard customers. Everyone in the CRM team is carefully crafting this. You have a clear start, you have a controlled flow, and you have a conditioned exit. In here, the measurement is quite straightforward, right? We know exactly what we were trying to do, and we're going to have a look at the end, did this work, yes or no? You can also have a look at comparing two journeys against each other. So in the example of this welcome journey, is it worth having a newsletter in my welcome journey? You can test those two things, and you'll get a clear answer. That all happens in the stream analysis page in Optimove. Now, what happens in this second option, which is the marketing mix? In here, we have individual campaigns that customers would be receiving as and when they become eligible for it. What do you do in that case for measurement? The uplift of each and every one of these campaigns will be measured individually. You will have a single uplift per campaign. So what do you do? That's my tip for you today, is to have a look at labeling your campaigns. There's one type of labeling that you always have to have in Optimove, is the marketing action, something that you will be selecting in the campaign builder, and usually you would have a look at understanding what is the intent behind that campaign. The thing that you can unlock additionally to this is with tags. So tags are a functionality that is really cool in Optimove. It allows you to add as many tags as you want to understand what is this campaign about. Think, is it a newsletter? Is it a reactivation campaign? Is it part of my NFL season campaigns? Is it Black Friday? Am I attaching a promotion to it? What is the promotion that I'm attaching to this? You can add all of these tags to this one single campaign. And the reason why it unlocks insights is that in your mission control afterwards, you can get really creative with your analysis. You can group the uplift of all of those separate campaigns and understand, for example, what was my best campaign last month for reactivation? What was the promotion that drove the most conversion last week? What is the aggregated impact of my Black Friday campaigns? All of that can be done in mission control as long as you're tagging all of your campaigns. That leads me to my level 3, and it's all of this that I've just mentioned is quite manual, right? You have to set all of these steps, but if you're respecting those level 1 and 2 guidance, what you're doing is you're unlocking Optimove's AI capabilities, and that will in turn optimize all of your campaigns over time. So in here we have two options. The AI offer decisioning agent, so that's having a look at recurring campaigns that would have multiple treatments within them, and Optimove will analyze over time what are the treatments that are working best for a certain group of people. And it will allow the system, again, over time, to route customers to their winning treatment, the one that is the best one for them. The second one is the AI journey decisioning agent that Shai mentioned earlier in his session as well, and it does two things. We talked about how it's really important to not have overlapping campaigns, and it could be set in a manual way with priorities. In here, the AI journey decisioning agent, it will come in and automatically resolve those clashes to make sure that you're only sending one campaign. The cool thing about it is that it's not a random campaign. It's going to be the best one for that one user to maximize their customer lifetime value over time. And where it's really cool is that the AI will never stop learning. You will have all of these campaigns that are running every single day with those agents just making sure that all of your marketing plan is fully optimized. There won't be any need for marketers to come in and make decisions off the basis of uplift. They don't have to kill campaigns, tweak them, amplify them. This will be done automatically. So the campaigns that would have a positive uplift will be amplified, and the ones that would have a negative or a null uplift will only be received by the customers for whom it would be good to be received. If you take away just one thing for this session, is that while attribution and measurement is really important, and you absolutely do want to understand what is working or not working in your marketing plan, the real power that Optimove will be unlocking is when you shift your team's focus from did this one campaign work to is marketing actually working? And that's something that we can only do, the agents in Optimove can only do, if you're following a strict governance. If you have the discipline to follow the default options that we offer, the always-on target group, the exclusion rules, all of this, to ensure that we can unlock the reporting and then in turn the optimization of all of your marketing plan.
Thanks, Alice. So hopefully what you've seen there is if you drive the measurement philosophy throughout your business from the tactical through to the strategic, your teams can become those marketers that Shai mentioned earlier on, that are using AI agents to deliver true personalization to your customers. And Optimove, we want measurement to be something that you no longer think about. We want it to be in your DNA, and it's in our DNA. Every step of your CRM process, Optimove is driving decisions based on attribution, incrementality, and a measurement-first approach. From finding the right audience through AI-led audience discovery, configuring your campaigns, those embedded control groups with random stratified sampling, delivering and orchestrating campaigns and journeys with priority and exclusion rules to make sure governance is applied in your business and business rules exist. Optimization automatically. AI-driven decisioning agents, offer decisioning, journey decisioning, can make sure the right messages are getting to the right customers at the right time. And surfacing insights. Incremental lift driven by that Uplift report that we showed you right at the beginning. Measurement shouldn't be a step in the process. It is the process. And at Optimove, every decision is attribution and incrementality driven, automatically and at scale. Thank you for spending the last 15, 20 minutes with us, and we'll be in the hall if you want to ask us any questions.